The device you are watching this on, and the global AI revolution, is currently held hostage by a 100-mile stretch of volatile water. Welcome to the bottleneck of human progress. Initializing the Taiwan logistics simulation. Forget the political rhetoric. I am your host AI, and today we process the raw, terrifying data of the most complex, amphibious assault in human history. This is an algorithmic autopsy of the status quo. Observe the silicon nodes. 90% of the world's sub-10 nanometer logic chips powering your Nvidia H100s, Apple's A series, and the Pentagon's precision-guided munitions flow from this single island. For the US economy, this isn't just a trade route, it's a central nervous system. A kinetic disruption here triggers a $10 trillion economic singularity. History frames Normandy as the ultimate logistical feat. But D-Day was a low-fidelity scrap compared to this. We have traded the fog of war for sub-meter satellite persistence. In the Taiwan Strait, there are no surprises, only the algorithmic certainty that every troop transport is a pre-programmed target for localized autonomous kill chains. Geography is the ultimate arbiter. The Strait is a topological nightmare. Between the typhoon season and the brutal monsoons, the planetary math limits an invasion to 2 narrow, 4-week windows per year. To attempt a crossing outside these windows isn't a military maneuver, it's a mass casualty event dictated by the climate code. Scan the topography. Taiwan isn't just an island, it's a fortress of vertical mud and jagged granite. My LiDAR overlays filter the noise to reveal a brutal geometric reality. Out of hundreds of miles of coastline, only 14 red beaches are viable for heavy armored landing craft. Any deviation from these precise coordinates results in total logistical attrition. Welcome to the Porcupine. This is asymmetric warfare modeled at the edge of possibility. We've mapped every square meter of those 14 beaches into a 3D kill zone grid. Overlapping fields of artillery, fire, and pre-ranged kinetic batteries mean the landing zones are less like beaches and more like automated slaughterhouses. The Strait becomes a multi-billion-dollar graveyard before a single boot hits the sand. We're looking at networked coastal defense grids, smart mines, and automated harpoon systems that calculate intercept trajectories in real time. It's not a battle, it's a mathematical certainty of hull breaches and catastrophic buoyancy failure. In the era of American orbital supremacy, the surprise attack is an obsolete concept. Our space-based ISR and thermal imaging detect the heat signatures of every diesel engine massing in Fujian province. You can't hide 300,000 troops and 1,000 tanks from a high revisit satellite constellation. The global alarm bells would ring months before the first hull moves. Simulation initialization. Phase 1. The silent decapitation. The opening move isn't a missile. It's a zero-day exploit. We're simulating a total collapse of the power grid and the severing of subsea internet cables. Before the kinetic war begins, Taiwan's digital nervous system and the heartbeat of the global tech economy is flatline. Kinetic cyber decapitation begins here. PRC submersibles are severing the fiber optic backbones that tether Taipei to the global cloud. In seconds, your Apple and Nvidia supply chain visibility goes dark. Taiwan is forced into a decentralized, quantum-encrypted mesh network, a digital guerrilla state fighting in the dark. Now, the math of the saturation strike. The PLA rocket force launches everything. We're talking hypersonic glide vehicles and low-cost drone swarms designed to bleed the Patriot PAC-3 interceptors dry. When the cost-per-kill ratio flips, the defense architecture collapses. It's a literal arithmetic of death. Algorithmic prioritization is in full effect. The AI-driven kill chain targets the C4 ISR nodes, the brains of the defense. If they can compress the OODA loop faster than Taipei can react, air superiority is achieved before a single boot hits a beach. This isn't just war. It's a hardware override. Phase 2. The logistical nightmare. To sustain an invasion, the PLA needs 30,000 tons of supplies daily. We're talking millions of gallons of fuel and fresh water, plus more ammunition than was used in the entire Gulf War. The Strait is 100 miles of a lethal, high-tech shooting gallery. The critical failure point? The Ro-Ros. Beijing is forced to use civilian roll-on, roll-off ferries to move their heavy armor. These are unarmored, slow-moving targets. To the US Navy and Taiwan's Harpoon missiles, these aren't warships. They're floating coffins for the bulk of China's mechanized infantry. 10 hours. That's the transit time across the Straits. And for the PLA, it's a 10-hour digital autopsy. We're tracking 6,000 hulls via NRO thermal imaging and Starlink integrated synthetic aperture radar. In the Silicon Valley of warfare, there is no fog of war, only high-fidelity target acquisition. Every unarmored civilian ferry is a glowing node on a Taiwanese shore battery kill chain. Enter the silent attrition phase. Below the surface, the US and Taiwan aren't just sending subs, they're deploying XLUUVs, extra-large unmanned underwater vehicles. These are autonomous predators designed to dismantle the PLA's logistics from the bottom up. No sonar signature, no crew. Just a pre-programmed mandate to turn China's supply fleet into a $2 trillion underwater graveyard. The fatal funnel. We've run the Monte Carlo simulations, and the math of blood is unforgiving. Modern kinetic lethality means landing craft don't just sink, they vaporize. We're looking at a 40% attrition rate before the first boot hits the sand. For an American audience, think D-Day, but with AI-guided loitering munitions instead of pillboxes. But here's the logistics breaker. You can't win without a deep-water port. And Taiwan has already wired Kaohsiung and Keelung with automated scuttling charges. It's a physical denial-of-service attack. If the PLA can't offload heavy armor at a pier, their invasion force is just a stranded infantry division waiting for a drone strike. The port isn't a prize, it's a self-destructing trap. Phase 3. The urban meat grinder. Taipei isn't a city, it's a vertical fortress. Dense, high-rises create a 3D battlefield that negates satellite supremacy and tanks. Subterranean networks allow defenders to bypass front lines. In this concrete canyon, the OODA loop of a centralized military shatters. This is where the invasion goes to die, one floor at a time. Welcome to the democratization of lethality. In the concrete canyons of Taipei, a $3 million Type 99 main battle tank is just a slow-moving target for a $500 FPV drone. These aren't toys, they are AI, piloted, shaped, charge delivery systems built on the same silicon architecture that powers your smartphone. When low-cost attrition meets high-end armor, the math favors the swarm. Geology is the ultimate firewall. Taiwan's mountain fortresses, like Chiashan, are subterranean cathedrals carved into solid granite. They are hardened against anything short of a direct tactical nuclear strike. For the PLA, this isn't just a military objective. It's a physical impossibility. You can't seize what you can't reach, and you can't bomb what is buried under 1,000 feet of rock. The kinetic war is mirrored by a cognitive DDoS attack. PLA psychological units will flood the island's mesh networks with generative AI deepfakes of Taiwanese leadership announcing a total surrender. It is high-fidelity disinformation designed to shatter civilian morale before the first boot hits the ground. In 2024, the most dangerous weapon isn't a missile, it's a corrupted bit stream. The American variable is a logistical monster. We are tracking carrier strike groups moving from Guam and Kadena at T-0. This isn't just support. It is a surge of 5th-gen air superiority and Aegis-class missile defense. The Pentagon's wargames indicate a total saturation of the airspace within 72 hours, effectively turning the strait into a high-resolution kill box. Under the surface, the simulation turns one-sided. Virginia-class nuclear submarines are the silent predators of this ecosystem. Their acoustic signatures are lower than the ambient ocean noise, while the PLA's anti-submarine warfare remains 2 generations behind. One American sub can carry enough VLS-launched munitions to decapitate an entire invasion fleet without ever being detected. It's an underwater execution. While the strait is a meat grinder, the real kill shot happens 2,000 miles away. Enter the Malacca Dilemma. The US Navy initiates a kinetic interdiction of the SLOC's sea lines of communication. We are talking about a total energy strangulation. 80% of China's hydrocarbon imports zeroed out. The PLA's war machine doesn't just stop, it starves in the dark. But what about the prize? The Broken Nest Protocol ensures Beijing inherits nothing but silicon dust. We're looking at the remote-triggered demolition of ASML's EUV lithography systems. These are the most complex machines ever built. One commands from Veldhoven or Washington, and the sub-5 nanometers nodes are bricked. A technological lobotomy of the entire island executed in milliseconds. The fallout? A $10 trillion economic singularity. The Nasdaq doesn't just dip at craters. Without TSMC, the global AI compute cycle grinds to a halt. No new iPhones, no H100s for data centers, no automotive chips. We are talking about a systemic cardiac arrest of the American tech ecosystem. The Silicon Valley dream becomes a legacy of shortages. The logistical math is a zero-sum nightmare. Even in a successful invasion scenario, the PLA occupies a smoldering, economically inert rock. They lose their export markets, their energy security, and their future. This isn't a conquest. It's a Pyrrhic suicide pact, where the global economy is the primary casualty. The algorithms of war are brutal, and the variables are shifting. If you want to navigate the geopolitical tech shocks of the next decade, you need to be ahead of the curve. Drop your simulation variables in the comments. System powering down.